I want to start really quickly with a little bit of appreciation for Cristopher Sanchez. Is that okay? I know it's weird to go football, then the membership thing. Now we're going to do baseball and we're going to get back to football. But I promise it'll be worth it. And the whole reason that I want to do this is because I think that in the midst of a season where we have seen such incredible pitching, starting pitching, to be clear, with the Philadelphia Phillies, there are moments that get kind of lost, right? Like, we all can acknowledge and appreciate the fact that Zach Wheeler is a bona fide stud. We can acknowledge the fact that Cristopher Sanchez is a bona fide stud. When healthy, Ranger Suarez is a bona fide stud. And then it kind of like stops. Like, then there are some other like question marks and all that. But like, let's focus on those three. And I specifically want to focus back on the nonsensicality, which I think is a word, and if not, it will be soon. The nonsensicality of what happened going into the All-Star game. That Zach Wheeler was an All-Star, great. Kyle Schwarber was an All-Star, great. But Cristopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez somehow were not All-Stars. And then remember, we broke it down. We had all the language and everything that, like, leading up to the All-Star game, Sanchez and Suarez were both approached about potentially pitching in the All-Star game. But in order for them to be All-Stars, they had to pitch in the All-Star game. And they both said, nah, that's fine. Nah, well, we didn't make it. Nah, it's fine. Would rather just, contribute to my team and not worry about getting thrown off by doing the All-Star game. And so neither of them were All-Stars. But then the Phillies said, well, you know what, Cristopher Sanchez, you have a clause in your contract, a bonus for being an All-Star, and they paid it to him, and it's like $50,000, which is, which is great. And like, Sanchez is pretty damn undercompensated, but good on him. Sanchez this season has been absolutely astonishing. And when you go back and you watch what happened yesterday, it was batshit crazy. Like, you're watching a guy who was in total command the entirety of the game, and he gets himself into that ninth inning with an opportunity to close it out, and he was a bona fide stud in getting it done. And so I just want to dive into the numbers here just for a minute, and then we'll move on to some other stuff. But like, is there better value in baseball right now than Cristopher Sanchez? Like, I think that's one of the places that we have to start. Remember, he's in the midst of a 4-year contract that'll pay him a total of, I think it's $22 million, $22.5 million. This year, he is getting paid $2 million, $2,050,000. I think that was the bonus. $2 million. Next year, 2026, $3.5 million. Then $6.5 million, $9.5 million. 2029, there's a club option for $14 million. 2030, there's a club option for $15 million. Now, for a guy that came in to Philadelphia, came up to this team with little to no fanfare, he has certainly exceeded expectations. I would even assume that for as good of a player as he thought he would be, for as good of a pitcher or great of a pitcher as he might have hoped in his best case scenario he would be, he's exceeded those expectations. He has to have, right? He looks every bit like a number one starter and is on the cusp, I would say, of being an ace on a lot of teams in Major League Baseball, not just the National League. And so you look at the value. At $2 million, there is not a single player, or at least a pitcher. Let's go pitcher. There's not a single pitcher in the National League, maybe not even a single pitcher in all of Major League Baseball, that is giving you better value right now for $2 million than Cristopher Sanchez this year. And by the way that not the cap, but the way that payrolls work in baseball year over year over year, that $14 million club option in 2029, you would assume is pretty much going to be a foregone conclusion unless the guy like totally falls back down to earth. And every year it's going to look like more and more of a steal. I don't actually know if you're the Phillies, do you have to try to figure out a way to like compensate this guy in another way? Maybe the Phillies try to hook the man up with a sponsorship that's going to pay him some actual money. I'm not saying they should feel guilty or dirty about the fact that he's making such a small amount of money relative to like Aaron Nola, but like, it's insane. Let's go over some numbers. Let's just take a little bit of a dive into young Cristopher Sanchez this year. All right, he's 28. So it's not like he's got 15 years of Major League Baseball ahead of him, right? But here's where he's at on the season. A 2.40 ERA, which is down 0.92 from a season ago. So nearly down an entire earned run from last year. He's already made 20 starts. He made 31 in all of 2024. He's at 9-2. Last year he was 11-9. You can get into the argument about whether or not wins are indicative of a pitcher's excellence or if it's more of a team stat. I'm fine with leaning into like there's certainly a team component to it. But 9-2 on the season. His whip is 1.09, which is the lowest it's been since 2023, where he pitched in 19 games and had a 1.05 whip. So in really strong position there. 134 strikeouts thus far this season. Last year in 31 starts, he only had 153. So he's only 19 off the pace of a season ago in 11 fewer games, in 11 fewer starts. His walks are going to be higher than last year. He's at 32 walks. He had 44 all of last season. Probably will end up eclipsing that. Maybe he gets to like 48, maybe 50. But those strikeouts, I would assume, are going to get somewhere close to the range of, if he starts another 10 or 11 games, I mean, he should eclipse 200 if he keeps up on at this pace, right? Or close to it. Does he get to like 175? Can he get to 180? Maybe 200 is a little bit crazy. Can he get to 175? I would say that he probably will eclipse last year's strikeouts. And so you look at this on the whole and you say, this pitcher is even better than he was a year ago. And if you remember, there was a stretch last year where we had the conversation about, is Cristopher Sanchez like kind of like the heir apparent to Zach Wheeler? We had the conversation at different points last year. Is he the true number 2 on this team? Remember, like a season ago, some people who were still Nola truthers were like, oh, no. Aaron Nola is still the number 2 pitcher on this team. Now, Ranger Suarez, incredible. Is Ranger Suarez the number 2 on the team right now? I don't know. I think you'd probably say Sanchez is right there. Maybe one of those two. Sanchez has been able to stay healthier, so I'd say I'd probably give the nod to Sanchez. He's also under contract. Ranger Suarez isn't because, again, apparently the Phillies decided, not a priority to, have Ranger Suarez under contract beyond this year. That's fine. We talked about that on Monday. I got my anchor out on Monday. But Cristopher Sanchez is everything you would expect an ace to be, let alone a number 2 or a number 3, or even coming into the season, the Phillies might have said, it should go Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, Sanchez, or something like that. If he's supposed to be a number 3 or 4, and you're getting this kind of production, again, there is no better value in Major League Baseball than Cristopher Sanchez. He's been absolutely sensational. Cristopher Sanchez, complete game last night, double-digit strikeouts, and then you go back, and this is the other thing that I wanted to get to. Over his last few starts, the strikeouts have kind of hovered in that like 6 to 8 range, right? Had 8 strikeouts a couple games ago, 6 in the last effort, and then he had 12 yesterday. The strikeouts were up. He was on top of his game. The thing that you have to love about Cristopher Sanchez is he makes you suffer through the bullpen less. So in his last 4 starts, he has gone at least 7 innings. 7 and a third, and then a complete game last night. If you take out a game against Houston on June 26th, that would mean that he, over his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of his last 8 starts, he's gone at least 7 innings. In those games, 2 of them, he's gone 8 or more innings. He's been sensational this year. And remember, early in the season, we were feeling pretty good about it because he was getting through like 6 innings. And you'd say, okay. And then Dave Dombrowski's probably like, we're going to get him to Jordan Romano. And when Jordan Romano comes into the game, he's going to close it out. It's going to be great. Now, we're going to have Jose Alvarado and Jordan Romano this year. We know the 8th and the 9th innings are pretty set. Plus Kirkering, maybe in the 7th. Oh, yeah, we're good. 6 innings. No. So Cristopher Sanchez has now kind of like put the team on his back even more when he's pitching. He's going further into games. Now, the only thing that I get a little bit worried about is you don't want to burn out his arm. That's the only thing I worry about. He's been able to stay healthy. You got to watch. I have no problem yesterday. It's only 106 total pitches. That is the most of the month. I think it's the most pitches he's thrown in any game this season. That's fine. They usually keep him in the high 80s, low 90s. So this is more than he's used to throwing in a game, but he was so locked in yesterday, you just kind of have to let it go. And all of this is to kind of lead up to, you have a closeout game against the Red Sox on Wednesday. Then you go up to New York, and you're taking on the Yankees. And I'm not saying that's like a gut check kind of game. I'm not saying it's a gut check series by any stretch. But it is like one of those series where you want to see how you stack up against one of the better teams in Major League Baseball. Now, these Yankees are not leading the AL East. That distinction goes to Toronto. But like the Yankees are right there at second. They've been able to do damage, the Phillies have, to the Red Sox standing in the AL East. Now you're going to go up to Yankee Stadium. Can you continue the momentum? We'll find out. We'll find out soon.